Hey, I'm Stephanie Sterling, and I'm here to tell you all about titty critters, the critters for titties. They're good. Yeah. No, they're better than I thought they'd be, actually. You know, I thought it'd be terrible having a critter in your titties. But no, their claws, they're actually kind of soft, like a bag. They don't bite if you ask them politely. And as far as the fur goes, it's not really that itchy if you block it out and get used to it and block it out. And the warmth, I mean, it's fantastic for these incoming winter months. You know, July, August and the like. So really excited about it. But it's critters in your titties till the contract's fulfilled. I took the money, so they're here to stay. Critter titties! We're coming off the back of what's been called an incredibly promising showcase from Microsoft at this year's video game show and tell. Some are even saying it represents a significant turnaround moment for the Xbox brand and the Xbox brand family of Xbox. I love it when brand, so this is great news for brand. We got to enjoy lively reveal trailers for such exciting games as mascot platformer Mr. Onion Bugger, Simon Le Bon's Needful Things, and Hilt to Liquor 2, The King's Armoury. They've included bayonets this time. You'll notice I'm not taking this particularly seriously and I'm chatting shit rather than deigning to promote any of Microsoft's nonsense. After all, everyone knows Simon Le Bon is actually working on an adaptation of the Tommyknockers. I'm taking the piss because in the shadow of Microsoft's positive news, Phil Spencer farted out a sorry little statement about all the layoffs his company has indulged in, and no amount of dressing like a mid-2000s game journalist is gonna let that go unattended to. Certainly not when he's doing the pity party thing and pretending it was a hard decision for him. As we've discussed in the past, layoffs are not a tough decision and they're not something that a company is hit with. It's an active, short-term, cost-cutting method they very easily decide on to assure investors that the company is making more money than it used to, lest it look like they're not magically growing forever until the end of time. Importantly, it's a cost-cutting method that has been prioritized over other cost-cutting methods. While Microsoft can find billions behind the couch to acquire other corporations and go to court to tell lies about what it'll do with Call of Duty, while it can continue to pay executives more money in a year than they'll ever need in their lives, it just doesn't have enough cash to keep a successful studio like Tango Gameworks around. We've talked quite a bit about the industry's disgusting epidemic of layoffs this year, and I mean we've talked about it this year. The epidemic's been going on for a couple of years now, and we've talked in particular about Microsoft's contribution to a very real problem that's fucked over tens of thousands of people who've only ever laboured to bring in the company's tasty profits. We especially paid attention to Microsoft's inadvertent admission that studios like Tango were screwed regardless of how successful they are, because Microsoft will alter the bar for success as needed to justify the layoffs. So spare me Spencer's month-late unapologetic performance about how hard and sad it is to be the man holding thousands of livelihoods in his hands and squeezing. In talking with IGN, thus confirming he'd have a safe softball pitch to talk on, Spencer's grifts had this to spew. The closure of any team is hard, obviously, on the individuals there, hard on the team. I haven't been talking publicly about this because right now is the time for us to focus on the team and the individuals. It's obviously a decision that's very hard on them, and I want to make sure through severance and other things that we're doing the right thing for the individuals on the team. It's not about my PR, it's not about Xbox PR, it's about those teams. Once again, we have a great example of a corpo presenting things that just so happen to benefit their corporation as an altruistic decision. Funnily enough, the supposedly altruistic ones are the only decisions they take any meaningful responsibility for. I love this complete horse's garbage. Oh, it's not about my PR. That's why I waited until it was strategically beneficial to sneak out my offensive justification. What would have been a good thing to focus on with the team is on taking some accountability for the jobs he jettisoned and the industry he just made a more terrifyingly unsustainable place for tens of thousands of creative and hardworking people. Well, unlike PR, Spencer very much feels sustainability is about him and Microsoft, and certainly not the job market. Well, except even that's a lie, because it ain't about being sustainable, is it? In the end, I've said over and over, I have to run a sustainable business inside the company and grow, and that means sometimes I have to make hard decisions that frankly are not decisions I love, but decisions that somebody needs to go make. So said the man whose company is so thoroughly sustainable at present it's been able to acquire companies as huge and profitable as Bethesda and Activision, which just so happen to be where a lot of Microsoft's layoff victims have been found.
Suspicious.
You know, because of the decisions Microsoft made, not because it needed to be sustainable, but because it's gunning for a de facto monopoly of the video games industry. None of this is a hard decision for executives, it's literally what they've considered an inherently acceptable early line money saver for as long as they've been doing this shit. Something they shrug off as an inevitable part of the business. These slimy fuckfaces need to stop lying about how hard these decisions are, while simultaneously behaving as if they didn't even have a choice. Maybe I'd be more inclined to believe the former if it came without the contradictory latter, but probably not. I'm kind of biased against duplicitous corporate bollocks. Of course, the operative word in all that was not sustainability, but grow. As I've emphasised every time I've seen a corpo wanker try to just smuggle that in there. It's all about growth. If we were in a world that made sense, a company simply being sustainable would be considered a job well done, and it could just chug along continuing to make money for everybody involved. However, thanks to the rule of wanting all the money, simply doing a good job isn't enough. When you've decided your only purpose is to make money, making money will never be enough, and there will never be enough money to make. He's a catshit liar telling catshit lies when he says it's about sustainability. The only thing these companies are trying to sustain is their myth of infinite company growth. Speaking of which, we will continue to go forward, we will continue to invest in what we're trying to do in Xbox and build the best business we can, which ensures we can continue to do shows like the one we just did! Well, so long as you can continue to do shows, that's all that matters, right? Unfortunately, for most people, that really is all that matters. The hype, the marketing, the products that must be mindlessly and guiltlessly consumed. Having spent years now getting shouted at by gamers who say I made them feel bad for liking video games, I know all too keenly that Phil Spencer was being quite exacting when he closed his statement by leveraging his well-received marketing event. Which, I guess it is about Microsoft's PR after all, at the end of the fucking day. Any executive trying to justify layoffs, unless they admit it was a decision they made in lieu of taking the comparatively easy financial hit themselves, and the decision itself was pretty easy, is fucking lying. On that note, I want to revisit former Blizzard boss Mike Ibarra, who leapt to Spencer's defense a month ago. Well, at least someone had the backbone to address the situation, even if it wasn't Spencer himself, and even if it was an intellectually insulting bit of wagon circling. We last saw Ibarra suggesting that AAA video games, after charging their money, should also allow for a tipping function, because if anyone deserves an extra couple of quid, it's Activision Blizzard, for fuck's sake. I see lots of shots of Phil over today's Xbox announcements, he whined. Hey, I get it, but knowing him as a human, I know this hurts him as much as anyone else. I can't speak for... I'm too annoyed. I can't speak for all of the leadership here, but I do know him and I do know what he is likely going through. What he is going through? Like, he's still got his job, right? He's still got his massively well-paid, high-ranking job, right? I would love to know how, exactly, this hurts him as much as anyone else. As much as! Like, even if we did want to entertain the unlikely notion that Phil's feelies were really hurty-worty, how is that pain on the same level as losing your livelihood? How does feeling a bit sad for a day compare to people who did a great job having their careers fucked over to save the company that bought their jobs a fraction of a coin or two? I'm not trying to defend the decisions, Ibarra defended. I think we all get ourselves into situations that are tough and unexpected. Certainly I have. It's part of the job, as is the accountability for the outcomes. And I think right there is a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier. At once, layoffs are this unexpected shock that took the poor executive by surprise, and they're an inevitable part of the business. Total surprise, but totally expected. Also, what accountability did Phil take for the outcomes? A month of not saying anything and keeping his high-paying job. And no, I'm not calling people online criticising his indulgences anything close to accountability. Like, this is where it really unravels the tale of woe. People lost their jobs. They lost their jobs and were thrown into a job market that doesn't have room for them. And men like Spencer are just throwing more and more people into a cramped dumpster fire. And Ybarra can't even tell you exactly how Phil suffers, because in comparison, whatever he's going through is less than fucking nothing. Hurts him. Yeah, actually, he's gonna get an attaboy for this. The praise he'll get for being such a good little money sniffer will be quite the salve for his emotional wounds, I should think. Also, you can't just say you're not doing the thing you're literally doing, Mr. Not Defending His Decisions. But he's a good human and he cares deeply for the creative process and developers. That's my first-hand experience in working closely with... I mean, that's a load of crap. He's a video game executive, not a good human. This kind of shit is no different in aim from that absolutely pathetic movement a few years ago to generate sympathy for those poor maligned billionaires. It's people in positions of immense privilege learning that the world's a more critical place outside their little group of yes men, and they expect the critics to feel just as sorry for them as they do themselves. It's people without empathy, ironically wanting us to see their side of things, unable to imagine that we won't see their perspective because they understand no other perspective than theirs. It is so fucking offensive to suggest Phil Spencer is just as hurt by the layoffs as the people he's hurting. He's specifically and literally not. This kind of comment is so out of touch, it demonstrates perfectly the level of disconnect the executive class has from the people who are actually being harmed. It's exactly that kind of disconnect that ensures layoffs are nowhere near the hard decision they should be. These are just resources to company leadership, just expenses in need of trimming once the aggressive expansion is followed by the ruthless cuts. You don't get into positions of power at these publishers without being willing to cut throats, without finding decisions like layoffs far easier than a normal person would. You're a dickhead. That's what you need to be to get into that job. Own it, you cowards. Also dickheads.
Finally.
As regular viewer may know, we've been trying to keep it a little lighter recently on this show. You know, try not to make all of it doom and gloom like it was a couple years ago, but these layoffs are terrible and they keep coming up, they've not stopped. And certainly when executives chat shit, like Microsoft has been doing recently, you know, that can't be left unaddressed, because Lord knows the people they're saying it to aren't going to really bother addressing it. And a lot of bullshit is being chatted, and I absolutely will not stand for this whole pity party that executives are throwing for themselves. One thing that we need to remember as well, I was talking around it in the video a little bit, is that these layoffs, when they occur, they affect the entire industry. It's not just those who are being laid off, though of course in the moment they're the ones suffering most of all, but they are being thrown into a job market that is having tens of thousands of other people thrown into it at the same time. Every single instance, every single indulgence of layoffs is just making the job market harder, not just for those being laid off, but those who are already laid off. Like, I'm actually speechless at how reckless this whole process of rapid expansion and then rapid cost cutting is. Just how harmful and careless it is. They call these people job creators, and that gives them a license to do so much bullshit in people's eyes. But they're not creating jobs, they're creating problems. Fuck you, Phil Spencer. And thank God for me. In association with Credit, it is. See, I think that really cheapens it. That cheapens the point.